All right, now let's now link up with Murimi Mwangi. I understand IEBC CEO Ezra Chiloba is at this moment speaking to the press about the mass voters registration exercise, which kicks off tomorrow.
8th, 2017 elections. It should be recognized that the Constitution gives every Kenyan the right to participate in political processes. Registering to vote is one way through which this right may be realized. And that's why the IEBC is availing another opportunity for eligible Kenyans to register to vote in the upcoming general elections. Before the March 2013 general election, 14.4 million Kenyans enrolled as voters. And as of December 2016, over 15.9 million Kenyans had been registered, subject to verification and certification by the Commission, a process that will be undertaken after mass voter registration too. Information we received from the National Registration Bureau indicates that by November 2016, over 9 million Kenyans had been issued with national identification cards but remain unregistered as voters. We are therefore targeting to register persons who have never registered as voters at any time between 2012 and 2016, and persons who have recently attained voting age and acquired a national identity card. And the Commission estimates to receive 6 million additional voters in the best case scenario and 4 million voters in the worst case scenario. What are the requirements for registration? For one to be registered as a voter, he or she must be a Kenyan of 18 years of age and above, have an original national identification card or a valid Kenyan passport, and they must present themselves physically at the registration center of their choice. We also want to notify that registration will be done by capturing biometric and alphanumeric data of the applicants. The biometric enrollment will involve the capturing of the fingerprints. With respect to registration centers, the 2013 registration centers, as revised, shall be used during the registration exercise. In total, we shall have 24,613 registration centers across the country. And this includes 24,559 registration centers that were used during the MVR1 and 54 centers that had been degazetted for MVR1. About 300 registration centers have been amended in terms of names, and in addition, registration centers in Mandera East and Lafay constituencies will change due to the realignment of constituency boundaries in accordance with the Court of Appeal decision. Requests for transfers and change of voter registration particulars shall be undertaken at IEBC constituency offices across the country. This will free up other clerks in the field to handle new applications of voters. With respect to BVR kit distribution, we have already noted that, reported that 7,793 BVR kits will be deployed countrywide based on the county assembly ward size. During the MVR1, the Commission deployed 5,756 kits, which were not optimally utilized given the constraints of budget. The consequence was such that 2 kits ended up at 1 registration center. This time round, a kit will serve 1 registration center at a time. The criteria used in the distribution of kits is meant to ensure that potential voters are not discouraged by long distances to reach registration centers. Each county assembly ward have a minimum of 3 kits and a maximum of 10 kits. A list of distribution can be accessed on the Commission's website, and the list will basically show you the distribution of kits per county assembly ward, constituency, and at the county level. In order to increase access, we have allowed our registration officers to open the kits at the constituency level. This means that whenever you find a kit within the constituency, you may register as long as you intend to vote in that particular constituency. Our voter registration assistants will also draw up kit movement schedules in consultation with stakeholders at the ward level. The schedules will be communicated to locals using appropriate media. But we have also recruited 2,900 voter educators at the county assembly ward to aid in publicizing the kit movement schedule. This time round, the Commission will deploy over 1,421 staff for the exercise. This includes 290 registration officers, 290 assistant registration officers, 1,775 voter registration assistants, 2 per each ward, and 2,900 ward-based voter educators, 580 ICT support assistants, and 15,586 clerks. We are also going to have an increased media presence at the national and county level. That means media campaign. We have mapped out an elaborate media campaign plan which started running from today. In addition, the Commission will run an annual voter education week from 23rd to 29th January to bolster the registration drive. In the last 1 week, the Commission has engaged various stakeholders by organizing consultative forums at national and county levels ahead of the mass voter registration campaign. And in particular, we met the media, political parties, state actors, civil society groups, and faith-based organizations, among others. And during this engagement, we call upon everyone to support the registration campaign, because this is for all of us. The law stipulates that voter registration shall not be held in areas with pending by-elections. Therefore, arrangements will be made to conduct voter registration at a later time in Mumbere's Maji Mazuri ward in Baringo County and Central Kanyamkago ward in Migori County. By-elections in the two areas are scheduled to take place on March 22nd, 2017. In conclusion, I want to note that in the last few months, we have, as a country, been involved in very polarizing debates. We have held extreme views on certain policy decisions concerning elections. While we may have points of disagreement, which is part of democracy, we must also have shared positions. We believe that registration of voters is something each of us must agree on. Let all Kenyans, leaders across the board, state and non-state actors, get out there and mobilize eligible citizens to register as voters. For us as a Commission, we also commit to share updates on progress of registration each week as we advance towards having a credible voter register. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll take a few questions. Kindly give us your name and media and ask the question.
Yes. State your name.
I'm Adera from TV. I was asking, you said that registration with the requirements will be based on fingerprints. What preparation has IBC to put in place to assist those people who have disabilities, maybe they're lacking? I'm Adera from Islamia TV. you as a IBC, what are the preparations you put in place to handle those people who have disability, as you say that registration will be based on fingerprints, maybe the people without hand and so on. Thank you.
Yes, next one.
Okay, my name is Kennedy Epalat from KBC. But I just wanted to know, since you just pointed out clearly that voters must be Kenyans, about 18 years. And in some places, especially in our border counties, specifically Teso North constituency, there are reports that some people from Uganda are being registered for purposes of acquiring national ID cards so that they can participate in the voting. I don't know what action you taking in this regard. And also there are claims by certain politicians.
Right, that was IEBC CEO Ezra Chiloba addressing the media ahead of the month-long mass voter registration exercise that kicks off tomorrow. And just a recap of what Ezra Chiloba had to say. As of November 2016, 9 million Kenyans had been issued ID cards but are yet to register as voters. And out of these 9 million, the Commission now targets to register about 6 million in the month-long registration exercise. And Chiloba also addresses the issue of the number of BVR kits available, saying more than 7,000 BVR kits have been deployed for this second phase of the registration. In the first phase, there was about 5,700 kits, and of course, adding to the number there and assuring Kenyans that no Kenyan will be locked out of this voters registration exercise. You're watching Weekend at 1. For those on our KTN home channel, we take a short break, but our live coverage continues right here on KTN News.
The officer to do is to skip that stage of biometric capture. And you must be able to make a note in the system that this person showed up and they did not have fingers, or they had a certain disability to the extent that we could not capture their fingerprints. So there's a procedure to be followed in that case. And of course, the emphasis here now will be on the photograph that has to be taken, so that the same can be correlated during the time of authentication at the time of voting. With respect to national ID cards for border towns, of course, there's a lot of talk around such issues. The responsibility to issue national identification cards really rests with the National Registration Bureau. Our role is to register people who have IDs and they show up at our registration centers. But it's important, I think, that all actors find a way of monitoring so that only eligible Kenyans who have legally acquired ID cards are allowed to register as voters, really. So this goes beyond the Commission, and we call upon all actors to be vigilant along those areas that you mentioned, really. With respect to distribution of kits, I can tell you without fear of contradiction that the formula we've used to distribute kits is the fairest, the most equitable that you can ever have. And we've said you're going to find it on our website. You can look at it. You can do a bit of simulation the way you want. And for us, we don't say, you know, this is opposition, this is a government party. We are looking out for Kenyans who are eligible to register as voters to do so. One of the things, of course, I noted is that for the distribution, every county assembly ward will either have a minimum of 3 or a maximum of 10 kits. In wards such as Port Reitz, which is ward number 1 in Mombasa, it measures 4 square kilometers. It has 3 registration centers. It's going to get 3 kits, which means every day, if you went to a registration center in that particular place, you'll find a kit. The county assembly wards, which are vast, in places like North Hall, the maximum that they're entitled is 10 kits. So on average, a kit will spend at the registration center 10 days. And that is much more compared to what we had in the first registration campaign. So there is issues around distance to be covered by an individual when seeking to register, but also there's a question of population in the sense that the way the county assemblies were demarcated, those parameters of population, size, social amenities were taken into consideration to find equitable distribution. And we are confident with the formula that we've applied so far. And by the way, it's not so much about the number of kits. It's about how many people you also mobilize to ensure that they show up where the kit is. With respect to diaspora and prisoners, or we call them institutionalized potential voters, this is a matter that, with respect to diaspora, we hope that the new commission that is coming on board, hopefully next week or so, will make a decision on this. We've been able to provide options in terms of which countries to go to, but that requires a bit of consultation with policymakers, that's the commission, as well as other actors in this matter. But we have time to be able to carry out registration in the diaspora as long as we agree on the countries. With respect to prisons, again, we have a program for prisons. We have not decided on the date, partly because there are certain logistical challenges that we have to deal with. When you go into prison, when you're in confinement, your ID is taken away. And yet we need that ID to register you. So we must make special arrangements with the prison managers to allow us access to do that exercise. So we're having discussions that are likely going to see the prisoners register. And of course, the other challenge I will say is that by the time you're going to get into prison, say, committee, the time spent by prisoners in committee is temporary. So will the place they select to register as voters be the same place they will end up voting at the end when elections come? So we are looking at those nuances, and we'll be able to advise the country in terms of where we are headed with that.
Still on the matter of diaspora, I know that the Commission had issues getting data, actual data of actually the number of people interested.
Mwanzo ningependa uelezee maandalizi ambayo mmefikia kufikia sasa watu wanapotarajia kwanza kusajiliwa kesho. Swala la pili ni yale kuhusu yale madai ya kwamba vifaa vya BVR vichache sana vimepelekwa katika baadhi ya maeneo haswa mrengo upinzani. Na hili swala la watu wa kuhamahama, sijui unalishughulikia vipi kizingatiwa kwa sasa watu wanatoroka yale makali ya ukame na njaa katika baadhi ya maeneo nchini.
Okay, Francis.
My name is Gashuri. There is a lot of excitement about this voter registration and the mobilization that is being done by various political parties. There is also the question of those who are registered previously. They would most likely show up in the polling stations, probably to confirm whether their registration details are still there. How do you demarcate between those who want to confirm whether they're still in the register and those voters who want to come and register? Or do you set aside a specific time thereafter for guys to come and inspect the register? And secondly, in terms of the movement of people, especially in Asa areas, the previous concern was that some people turned up because they knew the registration kits were in a certain area, but we don't find them when they...
All right, IEBC CEO Ezra Chiloba there as he continues to address the media on concerns being raised ahead of the mass voters registration exercise, which begins tomorrow. This is the second phase of the mass voters registration exercise, as the Commission targets to register 6 million additional voters on top of the 4 million voters that were registered in the first phase of the mass voters registration exercise. Now, Ezra Chiloba has also gone to quell concerns of opposition leaders with regard to the number of BVR kits available for the registration exercise, saying that more than 7,000 BVR kits have already been disbursed for this exercise, which is more than the 5,700 that were used in the first phase of the mass voters registration exercise. We'll bring you more details on this press conference in our subsequent bulletins.